Zhuge Liang has finally landed in Rise of Kingdoms, and I just have to say, this is going to be a Zhuge change from what you're used to. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. If you're still here after the pun, I really appreciate you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner, and hit the bell so you do get notified when new episodes come out. So, Zhuge Liang is in the game, which means his skills are fully authentic. So let's click through them and talk about what Zhuge is going to be good for, who you should be pairing him with, and whether he's really going to be shaking up the current in-game field meta. So, to start with, Zhuge Liang is an archer commander, duh, and he has versatility as well as the skill tree. Now, from what I've heard, Zhuge is primarily a YSG type of commander. A lot of damage output, a lot of skill damage, but not quite as tanky as you might want. So let's read through the skills and see if that's really true. So first off, we have Burning of Xinye, where he deals direct damage to up to 5 nearby enemy troops with a damage factor of 1200 up to 2000, which is massive. And damage dealt to each target is reduced by 15%, that's standard. And all targets deal 5% damage for the next 3 seconds. So this is really, really valuable. And the reason for this, and it goes up to 15% damage reduction. The reason for this is because Zhuge is a type of commander that you're probably going to want to be running in a murder ball. And if you're running him in a murder ball and he can hit up to 5 targets and decrease their damage output of 15%, that's massive. That means he's a huge debuff commander. So if you're running 5 marches, you definitely want him to be one of those 5 because you're going to be protecting all the rest of your units and making it so they can deal more damage to a target without necessarily taking it. And this is really important because this is 15% all damage reduction, which is nice because that includes counterattack damage as well as skill damage. So we're off to the races with Zhuge. Next one, Borrowing Arrows. Archer units led by this commander gain 30% increased health and deal an extra 5% damage. Whenever this commander's troop is inflicted with a control effect, and that's silence, disarm, and heal immune, so that is going to affect, I believe, Attila, as well as Guan, probably Scipio. So all the commanders that you're likely to see in the field. While on the map, it has a 50% chance to negate the effect and deal direct damage to the attacking troop, so 500. What this means for me as a cavalry player is I don't want to attack Zhuge with my Attila because he's going to deal extra damage to my Attila simply because I tried to use that control effect. This is going to be devastating to anyone who's trying to run Guan in the field because that silence is actually going to hurt you even more here. On to the next skill. I'm pumped for Zhuge. Longzhong plan. Forgive me for my pronunciation. If this commander's troop contains only archer units, which it should, you get a 20% extra skill damage buff. That's insane. And normal attacks from this commander's troops have a 10% chance to increase the attack of their archer units by up to 50% for 3 seconds. That is an insane archer attack buff. And when you're using the archer equipment, which is predominantly attack-based, that is going to be a ton of damage. And that skill damage bonus of 20% is massive. Okay, next one. Marquis of Zhongwu. Whenever this commander uses an active skill, their troops gain the Marquis effect. Marquis can't be... Cool. It can't be dispelled. And it increases damage by 10% for 10 seconds if it does not already have it. If their troop contains only archer units and it has the Marquis effect, whenever this commander uses an active skill, they will consume the Marquis effect to deal direct damage to up to 3 nearby enemy troops, damage factor of 1500, and direct damage dealt through this method is not affected by buffs to skill damage. So what this means is you're dealing a flat 1500 damage factor, but even so, that is enormous. And this also means that whenever you're not using your skill, you are still dealing a massive damage bonus. And this is interesting to me because I wonder if you are using someone like Artemisia, which will silence your skills and really increase that time, if that 10% damage bonus is going to make a big difference for you. So this is, again, really interesting dynamic. So I'm pumped about this. Overall, it means you're essentially always going to have this damage bonus of 10%, which is insane. And last but not least, passive skill. Upon entering battle, this commander's troop gains the Marquis effect, 10% increased damage for 15 seconds. Each time their burning of Xinye or Marquis of Zhongwu deals skill damage, this commander's troop immediately gains 30 range. What this is going to mean is that if you pop out of your city and you're trying to cheeseburger with this commander, you can do that and deal immense amounts of damage. And the reason for that is you're getting that Marquis effect, which is increasing your damage by 10%. And then once your skill actually triggers, you clear that effect, deal more skill damage, and then if you're really cheeseburgering, you can pull back into your city and just repeat it over and over. But the really nice thing about this is it will increase your rage, which means that instead of having a rage requirement of 1,000, your rage requirement is really going to go down the longer this guy is in the field, which is handy, especially if we're talking about a murder ball situation, if you don't get targeted. Now, there are a couple of obvious flaws with Zhuge. One, he has no defense buff. Going through this, I see no defense buff, which is a big problem. He does, however, have health. So when we look at which commander you should be running with him, one of the big things I'm going to be asking is who has defense to offset this? Because you've got the attack, you've got some health, but we need to find a commander that's going to do that. The other question I have is, can we hide Zhuge? Because none of these skills are particularly tailored to being a primary commander. And what this means is, if I used a primary commander that's a little bit tankier, maybe it will help me hide Zhuge longer, which will make it so I get this 30 rage buff more. And the longer I have him out there, the greater this debuff is going to be on those enemy troops. So in a perfect world, you can hide Zhuge behind someone else. If it were me, I would do that because if he's primary, he's going to get targeted instantly, at least by me. Cool. So let's take a look at this and see who we might be able to pair with Zhuge. So first things first, everyone always asks, what about YSG? So here's my thoughts on YSG. YSG is awesome. He's got the 5 enemy troops skill damage in a circle, which is absolutely massive. And then he has the up to 50% skill damage boost. You really could pair Zhuge with YSG. Issue you're going to have with doing that is it is going to be a complete glass cannon. The reason for that is you're getting a skill damage bonus of what mathematically I think comes out to 70% skill damage, which is insane. And that skill damage is being applied up to, I think it's 1,700, and then you have the 2,000, and then even more from Zhuge off the bat. So that is absolutely crazy. But the issue is you have an archer attack bonus of 150%, which is completely unreasonable, and rage restoration of 100. So what this means is between Zhuge and YSG, you're getting rage restoration of, I believe, 130, which is really handy because that rage restoration is actually going to proc your skills even faster, which with these two, that's what you want to do. But the problem with YSG, and this is a consistent issue with him, is he has no defense or health, which means if you throw Zhuge with YSG and someone swarms you, you are gone pretty much instantly. So if you do control the field and you don't expect that you're going to get swarmed, you probably could run Zhuge with YSG. But this doesn't address the problem of the fact that you might want to hide your Zhuge in order to get that debuff and last longer in the field. So who else could we put him with? Well, let's take a look. We have Nebu. Nebu deals a fair amount of damage. He has 1,500 damage factor. And he also deals additional damage to the current target. So that's 2,000. So between Zhuge and Nebu, you're now dealing 4,000 damage, which is pretty insane. And you're getting that skill damage boost on Nebu. Here you get 30% increased defense, which does offset the issue that we see with Zhuge, where he has no defense. And you get 15% increased march speed, which means if you're getting swarmed, you may be able to escape. Let's be honest though, I think if you're running these two, you're probably going to get targeted first. The march speed matters just a little bit less. Now you have the rally attack, which is really interesting because you've got the counterattack damage boost increased by 30%, and incoming attacks have a 10% chance to deal damage to the attacker and reduce their march speed. I really think that there is the potential to use Nebu Zhuge as a rally pair, because when I look at these commanders, they have a really interesting synergy. where Zhuge can deal a ton of damage, and it can deal a ton of damage to just about anything, whether it's surrounding troops, whether it's counterattack troops, whether it's just about anything. But with Nebu, you get a little bit of tankiness with that defense and now this counterattack damage bonus that you previously didn't get. And I believe Zhuge has the all damage boost, or at least the skill damage boost, that will help augment this. Last but not least, we've got troops led by this commander deal 15% increased damage, and each normal attack has a 10% chance to reduce the target's rage by 100. So now you have an extra debuff here that I believe should stack with the existing buffs that Zhuge has, which makes this pair really formidable. The question you may be wondering is, who do you put in primary? If it were me and I were sending Zhuge into the field just as a field pair, I might consider putting Nebu primary, because Nebu I think is going to be a little bit less likely to get targeted if you're in a murder ball, because you want to go for those high value targets like Boudica or Nebu. So I'm thinking that I might put Nebu in front of Zhuge, because Zhuge is going to get targeted instantly. You also get the Conquering Tree with Nebu, which if you're rallying is a must, but you still get the Archer and Skill Tree if you want to run in the field, so it's very similar. I think the Conquering might be a little bit more useful than the Versatility Tree. So who else could you pair with Zhuge? Well, I know everyone's wondering. There are two more commanders that you might want to consider. So first we have Boudica. Boudica is the Archer Queen. So should you run her with Zhuge? I don't know. You've got 2300, which is massive direct damage factor. This can also get amplified by the skill damage boost that Zhuge has, and she increases their skill damage by 35% and reduces their march speed by 30. I would wonder if this 35% skill damage will stack with Zhuge's skill, which actually increases, they deal 5%, 15% less damage. If it stacks, which I think it might, that is a huge debuff on a single target, because now they're dealing 15% less damage and they are taking an immense amount more damage. And if you have Boudica primary, then it's just absolutely insane. I also like the idea of Boudica primary because Boudica is getting targeted in the field anyways. Whether you have Henry with her, whether you have Nebu with her, whether you have YSG, she is going to be a target regardless. But with Zhuge coming out, she may be a less priority target than him. Next, we get an Archer attack increase of 30% and an Archer defense bonus of 30%, and you get a little bit of speed. So you get the best of both worlds that Nebu had before, but you get even more boost. You trade a little bit of march speed for some attack and defense. On to the next one, reduces skill damage taken by troops by 25% while on the map. Now, I think Zhuge is primarily going to be a field commander, but you could use him in a rally as well. And when taking skill damage on the map, damage for the troops' next normal attack has a 50% chance to increase by 5% and 25% chance to increase by 20%. Obviously, this goes up depending upon what you have maxed. But what this means is you are a little bit tankier on the field, which combined with that defense is actually really nice. And the damage buff that you're getting here for skill or normal attack is really handy when you're talking about lasting in the field. And last but not least, we get a little bit of healing from Boudica. When attacking troops, troops receive healing factor of up to 800. After using active skills, and archers deal 5% increased damage to infantry. If you have Boudica Zhuge and you are attacking a Guan, you are going to deal immense amounts of damage because you have the increased damage to infantry and you have the damage that you're dealing because of the silence that Zhuge has. So these two have phenomenal synergy, especially if we're talking about being in the field. And you have increases damage dealt by archers by 10%, and when under control effects, the troop has an 80% chance to dispel them. This is really valuable because, as we saw earlier, Zhuge has a chance, when also affected by control effects, to dispel those. Except when he dispels them, you deal skill damage. I would wonder if Boudica Zhuge will dispel them and also deal immense amount of damage, guaranteed, because you have 80% chance here, and then I believe you have a chance. What's your chance here? Control effect. 50% chance here. So you're essentially guaranteed to negate that control effect, which I think is really exciting because now Guan, Attila, a lot of those commanders with the control effects are not going to really be any trouble for your archers. And last but not least, the rally pair, Henry, Zhuge. Do they have synergy? Well, with Henry, we have skill damage of 2,300, and he reduces skill damage taken by up to 30%, which is really nice because Zhuge, again, absolutely needs to have a little bit of tankiness. We also see an archer defense bonus here of 20% and a march speed bonus of 20%, which matters a little bit less when we're talking about rallies, but if you're running them in the field, there's no reason you couldn't still use Henry. And when attacking strongholds and governor cities, deal 30% more counterattack damage, so you're swarm proof, and have a 10% chance to increase skill damage taken by the target by 30%, which is really important because if the target is taking up to 30% more skill damage and you have a skill damage boost and 2 commanders that deal immense amounts of skill damage, Henry Zhuge might be lethal. And I don't think Henry has a terribly good archer pair today. Archers led by this commander deal 10% more damage, and when in attack, there is a 10% chance to deal direct damage to the target of 800. This really aids and increases that tankiness of the pair. I could totally see you using these two in the field or in a rally, and if you're a rally lead, oh man, it's going to be scary. Next skill here is also really important. When a troop's rage reaches 70%, they deal 30% more normal attack damage. Otherwise, they take 20% less normal attack damage. Because of Zhuge's expertise, where they get extra rage, this pair is really valuable because you will be reaching that 70% threshold much quicker, which is going to make it so you get the 30% more normal attack damage buff even more frequently. So, the question I'm sure you're all asking, should you be maxing Zhuge? Is he going to be the next meta? My answer is absolutely. Whether you have one archer march or you're an archer primary, you must have Zhuge Liang. I would swap him out for just about anyone. My top recommendation for field is going to be Boudica. My top recommendation for rally is obviously going to be Henry. I hope that you guys have enjoyed. If you have, do hit that subscribe button and drop a like for me. Thank you all. Shappy out.